Have you ever woken up the next morning feeling foggy-headed, heavy in spirit, as if your body had not rested at all through the night? Or worse, you lie in bed for what seems like forever, tossing from side to side, while the clock on the wall ticks off each cold second. If you are 50 or older, I would like to share with you a simple truth that few people notice. Natural sleep changes over time. Not because you grow older and no longer need sleep, but because hormones, the nervous system, and the biological clock inside the body gradually lose their original stability. I am a doctor specializing in geriatrics and sleep disorders. For 3 decades, I have treated silver-haired patients, and I have realized that many people, after trying every kind of sedative, ultimately find their deepest sleep thanks to the humble foods right in their own kitchen. Yes, not an expensive pill, not an advanced brainwave counter, but a speckled, ripe banana, a warm bowl of oatmeal, a few green kiwi slices, or a gentle cup of chamomile tea. Those natural medicines quietly send a message to the brain. It is time to let go, lower the curtain, and let the body start its night shift recovery. In this video, I will lead you on a comprehensive journey to reclaim golden age sleep. We begin with 7 science-proven superfoods, from the golden tea, potassium magnesium in bananas, to the natural melatonin in Montmorency cherries, from the beta-glucan fiber in oatmeal that keeps blood sugar level all night, to the apigenin in chamomile gently locking GABA receptors. You will clearly understand the mechanism of each nutrient, the medically precise dosage so as not to turn a bedtime snack into a midnight reflux episode. But food is only one piece of the puzzle. I will also point out 5 silent mistakes that sabotage every effort, such as a decaf coffee cup still sneaking in 15 milligrams of caffeine, blue light creeping from the phone screen, or a late HIIT session sending cortisol soaring until midnight. And once we diffuse those minds, we will reset the biological clock through 4 steps. 10 minutes of early sunlight, designing a repeating sleep ritual, lowering bedroom temperature, and training 4-7-8 breathing to awaken the parasympathetic. Finally, I want you to look at sleep with new eyes. Not a wasted time when the lights go out, but a regeneration lab, where the brain clears neural debris, the immune system destroys foreign cells, the cardiovascular system lowers pressure, the liver and kidneys draw out toxins, and the mind is healed. Do not rush off anywhere. Stay until the end of this video, and we will step into that miracle restoration journey, starting tonight, with nothing more than simple ingredients and the patience to listen to the body. Let us come to the first food on today's list, which is bananas. My elderly patients often regard bananas merely as a just-for-fun dessert after the checkup. Yet, through the biochemical lens I have embraced during more than 3 decades of practice, every speckled ripe banana is a natural relaxation pill, containing 3 golden nutrients: potassium, magnesium, and vitamin B-C, that play a decisive role in guiding the brain into deep rest. I always explain to patients that potassium and magnesium are the pair of ion pump workers on the skeletal muscle cell membrane. When the plasma levels of these 2 minerals reach the optimal range, the sodium-potassium ion channels run smoothly, the membrane potential stabilizes, muscle fibers relax softly, and the heartbeat slows to a slow, steady rhythm. The brain immediately understands that the stage lights are about to go out, a powerful biological signal to shift gradually into the light sleep phase. Young people may ignore that signal, but for those over 50, whose bodies are entering an era of reduced melatonin production, the assistance from food is all the more cherished. When it comes to vitamin B-C, I often use the image of a key turned twice, so patients can easily remember. B sign converts tryptophan into serotonin, first key turn, then triggers the reaction that changes serotonin into melatonin, second key turn. If any link jams, the relaxed deep sleep process sees its gears stall. And fortunately, A 120-gram banana already meets roughly 20% of the recommended BC intake for adults. 3 months ago, Mrs. Margaret O'Connor, 67 years old, a retired teacher in Spokane, came to me because of nighttime leg jerks, a symptom of restless leg syndrome, RLS, that made her jump out of bed 4 to 5 times each night. She complained that she had tried iron pills, tried yoga before sleep, but to no avail. Instead of prescribing clonazepam, a solution that could lead to drug dependence, I suggested she try a fruit prescription, one perfectly ripe banana, eaten at 9 o'clock in the evening. That timing was no coincidence. It matched the moment when the pineal gland was about to enter its peak melatonin synthesis window. I added, if possible, combine the banana with oatmeal powder and warm oat milk. The banana's natural sweetness will replace sugar, while the resistant fiber in oatmeal helps nourish gut probiotics, where up to 90% of peripheral serotonin is produced. 2 weeks later, Mrs. Margaret returned with a smile recognizable even behind her mask. The sleep tracking device she used showed her nightly awakenings had dropped by nearly 70%, and her morning blood pressure fell to 118/72 mm/Hg instead of 135/78 mm/Hg as before. She said, "I never thought a banana could change my nighttime routine so much." I replied, "That is the cheapest miracle drug in the supermarket. The only question is whether we know how to use it at the right biological time." Over the past 40 years, many studies from Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic have shown that older adults with low serum magnesium levels face a 1.5-fold higher risk of chronic insomnia compared with those who have adequate magnesium. With suitable potassium added, they also significantly reduce the risk of atrial fibrillation and nighttime muscle cramps. Fortunately, bananas are one of the rare foods that gather all 3 of these factors in a single, easily digestible serving, needing no complicated preparation, with a flavor so pleasant that we can readily use them. In the context of older adults in the United States, increasingly wary of sedatives because of side effects, confusion, falls, dependence, bananas become a silent hero. The key lies in how we turn the pleasure of a light bite into a sleep-supporting ritual. I myself often advise patients that choose bananas that are just ripe, the skin's lightly speckled brown. At this point, the resistant starch content rises and the easily absorbed sugars decrease. If they want to stimulate the taste buds even more, they can mash the banana with rolled oats and 200 milliliters of warmed oat milk, sprinkling lightly with a pinch of Ceylon cinnamon. Cinnamon not only brings a warm aroma, but also contains polyphenols that help stabilize blood sugar, reducing the risk of nighttime hypoglycemia, a culprit that wakes many diabetic patients. In addition, they should maintain the routine for at least 14 consecutive nights before evaluating its effectiveness, because elderly bodies need time to adjust the biological clock and adapt to the nutrients in bananas. In terms of safety, bananas are almost harmless to the majority of patients. However, I especially give advice to those taking angiotensin-converting enzyme inhibitors, ACE inhibitors, or potassium-sparing diuretics. I always check kidney function before recommending daily bananas to avoid the risk of hyperkalemia. One small tip you also need to note: if your stomach is sensitive to fructose, eat the banana 45 minutes after dinner instead of on an empty stomach. When explaining to young colleagues about the value of bananas, I often quip, "You can spend a few dozen cents to buy a pill that improves sleep, tasty and environmentally friendly, so why overuse today's sedatives?" That is also the message I send to the Healthy Dynamics community, encouraging older adults to see food as a companion, not merely a calorie-laden snack. The journey of caring for sleep and cardiovascular health in elderly patients actually begins with very small decisions. Choosing familiar ingredients, yet consuming them at the right biological time, adding fiber, patiently listening to the body. Bananas are not an instant miracle, but they are a steadfast foundation, a golden key that helps millions of nerve cells enter a night of complete rest, something any expensive pill finds hard to replicate perfectly. The second food I want to share with you is cherry, a fruit that is not only delicious, but also extremely useful for our sleep. I have met many patients complaining about waking up at 3 a.m., their bodies tired, minds sluggish, even though they had tried to go to bed early. Many people think that is elderly sleep, but the real reason lies in the decline of melatonin in the body when we enter the age over 50. Moreover, blue light from phones or tablets also contributes to reducing this hormone. Interestingly, cherries, especially the deep red Montmorency cherries, are a natural source of melatonin for the body, helping to regulate sleep and bring deeper, higher quality sleep to those having problems with sleep. I often show patients a comparative chart. 100 grams of ripe cherries provide an average of 13 nanograms of melatonin, 10 times more than most other fruits. When eaten in the evening, this exogenous melatonin crosses the blood-brain barrier, attaches to MT2 receptors in the suprachiasmatic nucleus, helping to reset the sleep-wake cycle that has been phase-shifted by age, stress, and artificial light. Yet, cherry does not stop at melatonin. The flesh is also full of anthocyanin, a group of antioxidant pigments that give the characteristic purplish-red color. Anthocyanin sweeps free radicals in the central nervous system, reduces microinflammation, thereby stabilizing the pathways tasked with lowering brainwave frequency into the delta band, the prerequisite condition of deep REM sleep. Clinical results show that people who use sour cherry juice for 2 weeks increase deep sleep duration by an average of 17 minutes, a number that sounds small but is enough to push the neural recovery index up nearly 10%. A typical example, Mr. Walter Gaines, 69 years old, a former math teacher in Flagstaff. Walter lives disciplined. He always goes to bed before 10 p.m., but his biological clock wakes the body exactly at 3:15 a.m., making the whole next day pass in a fog of fatigue. Instead of hastily prescribing zolpidem, I had him try the 12-cherry regimen each night. Specifically, Walter took out 12 frozen Montmorency cherries, already washed, let them thaw naturally in a bowl, ate them at 9:30 p.m., then turned off all blue light-emitting devices and read a paper book under dim yellow light. I emphasized absolutely no dried cherries because the high simple sugar content in dried form can spike insulin, dropping glucose at midnight and breaking sleep. If he prefers liquid form, he can blend cherries with 200 milliliters unsweetened almond milk, 1 spoonful of rolled oats. Avoid cow's milk because it contains casein that is hard to digest at night. 2 weeks later, Walter reported a small miracle. The wrist sleep tracker showed he slept continuously for 6 hours 50 minutes, almost 90 minutes longer than before. Resting heart rate fell from 68 to 61 beats per minute. Morning blood pressure dropped 8 mm/gram systolic. More importantly, he felt alert enough to return to the pleasure of solving highest-level Sudoku puzzles. All those results came only from natural biological intervention, without any psychotropic pill. The mechanism behind that result is quite logical. Exogenous melatonin from cherry pushes serum levels up for about 90 to 120 minutes, just in time to merge with the weak endogenous melatonin peak in older people. At the same time, anthocyanin also inhibits cyclooxygenase 2, COX-2, soothing the smoldering inflammatory fire in the brain, the culprit that makes the hippocampus struggle to enter the nighttime memory repair cycle. When the neural repair department is not disturbed by inflammation, deep sleep quality and memory consolidation are reinforced. I also give some advice to my patients that 1. Dosage. 10 to 15 fresh or frozen cherries, strain 150 grams, are enough. Going beyond easily raises blood sugar. 2. Timing. Eat 60 minutes before bedtime so that melatonin peaks at the same time heart rate and blood pressure fall into the nighttime biological valley. Storage. Unsweetened frozen cherries retain almost all melatonin and anthocyanin. Just thaw naturally, do not microwave. 4. Drug interaction. Patients on warfarin should check INR after 1 week because anthocyanin may slightly change blood viscosity, yet most clinical results remain within the safe range. Some people ask me, why not just take a 5 mg melatonin pill for convenience? First, the tablet dose is usually 10 times the biologically optimal melatonin amount, easily causing vivid dreams and morning dizziness. Second, the tablet lacks anthocyanin, the important anti-inflammatory brain piece. For patients with type 2 diabetes, I recommend checking blood sugar after dinner and adding a 15-minute slow walk around the house before eating cherry to help muscles open doors to uptake glucose. For patients with gastroesophageal reflux, the smoothie form will be gentler because the soluble fiber pectin in cherry helps reduce reflux compared with eating whole fruit. The latest study in Journal of Medicinal Food, January 2025, also reinforces my clinical observations. A group of 62 people over 65 years old who drank 240 milliliters of sour cherry juice twice a day for 2 weeks reported an average increase of 84 minutes in sleep time, improving the sleep efficiency index by 10%. The author of that report also emphasized the synergistic role between melatonin and anthocyanin in reducing total interleukin-6, a neuroinflammation marker related to chronic insomnia. When patients ask the simplest way to lock the sleep clock without taking medicine, I always smile and say, adjust a bit of light, respect the biological rhythm, and do not forget 12 Montmorency cherries. If I had to point out one humble food that exerts the strongest influence on the brain-gut axis of elderly patients, I would not hesitate to name sauerkraut. The traditional German fermented cabbage that is also the third food to appear in my video today. You can easily spot sauerkraut lining the shelves of organic stores across the United States. The advantage of sauerkraut does not lie in its mildly tangy palate-teasing flavor, but in the community of living microorganisms, lactic acid bacteria, coating every cabbage strand when fermentation peaks. As far as I know, each spoonful of raw sauerkraut, unpasteurized, unheated, contains hundreds of millions of CFU of Lactobacillus plantarum and Leuconostoc mesenteroides, 2 bacterial strains that both produce lactic acid and secrete exopolysaccharides that nourish the intestinal mucosal layer, which tends to leak as we age. When the mucosa becomes healthier, inflammation subsides. Parasympathetic, vagus nerve signals travel to the brain with cleaner fidelity. That is the launchpad for GABA, the calming neurotransmitter, to be synthesized and circulated more vigorously. Numerous studies at the University of California, Davis have shown people who consume 50 grams of raw sauerkraut daily for 8 weeks raise plasma GABA levels by 23%, lowering the insomnia severity index by 3 points. Enough to shift from moderate insomnia to mild insomnia. Moreover, few realize that 100 grams of sauerkraut provide approximately 21 milligrams of vitamin C, nearly 1/4 of the daily recommendation for older adults. In small but steady doses, vitamin C serves as a cofactor in converting L-tyrosine to norepinephrine, thereby modulating the HPA, hypothalamus-pituitary-adrenal axis. When cortisol, the stress hormone, dips slightly at day's end, heart rate slows, pulse pressure eases, and sleep arrives more readily. Speaking of the cabbage fermentation process in sauerkraut, it creates a glutamate-rich environment, a direct precursor for bacteria to transform into GABA via the enzyme glutamate decarboxylase. Patients with nighttime anxiety, rapid heartbeats, spiraling thoughts, often lack GABA signaling in the basal nuclei. A serving of 3 to 4 spoonfuls of sauerkraut provides about 40 to 60 milligrams of GABA. Not a huge number, but enough to signal the brain that the brake system is ready. Eleanor, a former librarian in Columbus, came to my clinic complaining that every night I feel a hot flush and wake up at 2 a.m. I reviewed her food diary and saw she liked to nibble 85% dark chocolate with a glass of red wine before bed. A classic histamine combo. I immediately had to explain to her that histamine stimulates our cortex. It also helps push body heat up, fragmenting sleep. Then asked Eleanor to try 3 small changes. Stop red wine and chocolate after 6 p.m. Add 3 spoonfuls of raw sauerkraut mixed with half cup of well-cooked brown rice, taken at 8 p.m. Drink 200 milliliters of warm water with a few drops of lemon after dinner to aid digestion. 3 weeks later, Eleanor's wrist skin temperature tracker showed an average nighttime drop of 0.6 degrees Celsius, and awakenings fell from 4 to 1. She jokingly told me, "I never thought German pickles would rescue an Ohio sleepless night." Now let's talk about some cautions when using sauerkraut. Rich though it is in probiotics, sauerkraut is also a natural histamine mine. Eating it too late or pairing it with the wrong items, grilled beef, chocolate, red wine, lets histamine exceed intestinal metabolism capacity, seep into the blood, and cause hot flashes, palpitations, and dawn headaches. Patients on monoamine oxidase inhibitors, MAOI, or first-generation antihistamines are even more prone to histamine overload. Hence my golden rule, a maximum of 2-3 spoonfuls of raw sauerkraut taken 120 minutes before bedtime. The 2-hour buffer lets the stomach work, while diamine oxidase in the small intestine degrades most histamine before the brain shifts into deep sleep. Below are 5 at-home guidelines I want you to remember to gain maximum benefit from sauerkraut. 1. Timing, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., depending on bedtime. 2. How to eat. Mix into cracked oat porridge or soft brown rice. Add a small spoon of ground flaxseed to supply anti-inflammatory omega-3. Avoid creamy sauces, fatty meats. Saturated fat can lock probiotics and lipid globules, reducing bioavailability. 3. Raw state. Choose a jar labeled raw, unpasteurized. Store at 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. High temperatures destroy beneficial bacteria and degrade GABA. 4. Micronutrient interaction. Those taking ferrous sulfate or ferrous gluconate should separate sauerkraut by at least 4 hours. Vitamin C in fermented cabbage boosts iron absorption, and high nighttime serum iron inhibits serotonin N-acetyltransferase, reducing melatonin. The 4th food today reminds me of the time when I was a resident physician at Mayo Clinic in the early 1990s. My mentor once joked, "A handful of almonds is better than half a cabinet of sedatives." At that time, I could not imagine that, after 30 years, this advice would still be supported by scientific studies, especially for elderly patients who face nighttime insomnia and the hypoglycemic dip around 2 to 3 a.m. In my clinic, almonds are always available on the table so that patients can easily reach them. And do you know that every 28 grams of almonds provides about 80 milligrams of magnesium, nearly 7 milligrams of vitamin E, and 13 grams of monounsaturated fat? These 3 compounds combine like a sleep-guarding team, helping to improve sleep quality, something I always encourage patients to adopt. So why is magnesium considered a key for sleep? Magnesium can compete with calcium on NMDA receptors in the brain, helping to reduce excessive glutamate release, a stimulating factor that causes insomnia. When magnesium levels rise, calcium channels close, lowering the electrical noise in neurons, thereby helping GABA bind to inhibitory receptors, promoting sleep. Patients with chronic magnesium deficiency will find that the brain has to slam the brakes harder to stop, yet the brake pads are worn. By eating just 7 to 10 almonds, you supply nearly 20% of the daily magnesium need for people over 60, enough to fill the biochemical gap without side effects like a 400 milligrams magnesium oxide tablet. Vitamin E in almonds, mainly as tocopherol, is a powerful antioxidant that protects neuronal membranes from the assault of free radicals produced by oxidative stress. This is critical because oxidative stress can damage the structure of GABA-A receptors, affecting deep sleep. A recent study from Johns Hopkins showed that older adults supplementing 200 IU natural vitamin E for 12 weeks reduced serum CRP by 12% and increased the sleep efficiency index by 9% on polysomnography devices. Almonds not only supply vitamin E but pair it with monounsaturated fat, MUFA, enhancing vitamin E absorption. Additionally, MUFA in almonds helps control nighttime blood sugar, especially during those awakenings at 2 a.m., when the body enters a hormone hunger state with rising cortisol and glucagon. Studies show that eating 43 grams of soaked almonds each evening reduces nighttime glycemic variability by 18% after just 4 weeks. The fifth food I want to share with you today is kiwi. I often call kiwi the fruit of laboratories, because few fruits have been studied so thoroughly in the field of sleep. At the Sleep 2019 conference in Denver, I vividly remember the presentation by the University of Otago group. With just 2 golden kiwis each evening, after 4 weeks, older adults increased effective sleep time by nearly 14%. Since then, kiwi has become a familiar part of my counseling menu in Portland, Maine. So why is kiwi friendly to sleep? First, kiwi contains abundant serotonin. One medium-sized green kiwi, about 75 grams, provides about 5 to 10 milligrams of serotonin, double that of a banana. Once absorbed, serotonin does not cross the blood-brain barrier, yet it performs 2 important tasks. 1, it stimulates parasympathetic gut nerves, sending a stabilized signal to the brain. 2, it supplies raw material for the pineal gland to synthesize melatonin after intracellular conversion. Therefore, I call kiwi a bridge between wakefulness and sleep. It maintains a steady serotonin baseline by day and helps create a melatonin peak by night. Besides that, vitamin C and E in kiwi are also a pair of neuroinflammation firefighters. 2 kiwis provide about 137 milligrams of vitamin C, nearly 150% of the recommended intake, and 10% of the vitamin E requirement. This duo extinguishes oxidative inflammation in brain regions such as the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, areas that easily ignite when blood sugar swings or cortisol spikes. When the brain is less inflamed, the phenomenon of waking and then drifting in grogginess markedly decreases. Another special point of kiwi is its whole fruit fiber, which nourishes the brain-gut axis. Green kiwi contains 3 grams of fiber, nearly 40% of which lies in the peel. After being washed thoroughly under warm water, this peel supplies pectin and polyphenols, boosting the growth of beneficial bifidobacteria and lactobacilli. This healthy microbiota produces butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that feeds intestinal cells, strengthens the blood-brain barrier, and promotes GABA synthesis in the gut. When the gut produces GABA, the brain slows its rhythm, supporting sleep. A notable clinical story is that of Mr. Thomas Price, 70 years old, a retired mechanic in Rochester. He is using metformin and semaglutide for type 2 diabetes. Although the drugs help control blood sugar, they cause bloating and gastric upset, leading him to wake 3 times each night, especially after 1 a.m. I proposed a serotonin tryptophan duo of 1 whole peel kiwi and half a speckled ripe banana, eaten at 9:15 p.m. After 10 days, the Aura Ring sleep log recorded. Awakenings reduced to 1, total deep sleep time increased by 22 minutes. He no longer needed the diphenhydramine sleep aid, and his early morning glucose stabilized at 104 milligrams per milliliter instead of 130. Regarding usage, I suggest eating 1-2 green or golden kiwis 60 minutes before bedtime. People with sensitive stomachs should start with 1 fruit, eaten with 4-6 almonds to slow sugar release. Another combination is kiwi with banana, boosting the serotonin-melatonin pathway. For GERD patients, juicing kiwi with 2 slices of fresh ginger and 100 milliliters of warm water will help reduce reflux by increasing gastric motility. Concerning kiwi peel, nutritional value rises significantly if you eat the peel, yet it also contains much oxalate. Those with a history of calcium oxalate stones should limit intake to 1 kiwi per day and drink 250 milliliters of water to dilute urinary oxalate. Some cautions and small tips. If you have a latex allergy, test half a slice of kiwi during the day before the evening serving. Kiwi is also rich in potassium, so stage 3 renal failure patients on beta blockers need to check creatinine and keep to fewer than 2 fruits per day. Avoid dipping kiwi in brown sugar, because sugar will raise insulin and negate the blood sugar stabilizing benefit. So why does kiwi outperform OTC sleep aids? A 5 to 10 milligrams melatonin pill sold over the counter often pushes hormone levels 50-60 times above normal, causing some patients to have vivid dreams and morning headaches. Kiwi, in contrast, acts on multiple layers, modulating mood, serotonin, fighting inflammation, vitamin C, nourishing the gut, fiber, and providing folate to regenerate neurons. Kiwi does not cause reverse jet lag when discontinued, and the flavonoid quercetin also helps lower blood pressure. 30 years of experience have taught me that tuning sleep is like adjusting the carburetor of a classic engine. You must turn many small screws, damping cortisol, flattening glucose, clearing inflammation, lubricating the brain-gut axis. Kiwi, though small, turns all 4 screws at once. When the day ends, the brain receives a synergistic signal. Shift over. The forces retire to the realm of quiet. The last food I want to mention may surprise you. It is chamomile tea. In Boston, where the changeable climate easily triggers weather-related insomnia, I often advise older patients to try chamomile tea. The power of this drink lies in apigenin, a flavonoid whose structure softly binds to the GABA receptor in a manner similar to benzodiazepine, yet without causing tolerance or morning dizziness. The problem is that apigenin is only well extracted when brewed in sufficiently hot water, 85 to 90 degrees Celsius, and needs at least 8 minutes of steeping to fully release the compounds from chamomile. If you dip a tea bag into bubbling water and pull it out after 3 minutes, you will receive almost no benefit beyond the aroma. Proper brewing has rescued many sleepless nights, typically the story of Mrs. Linda Hayes, 68 years old, a widow and retired clinical coder in Newton. Linda had chronic anxiety after her husband passed away, lived alone, and frequently woke at 2 a.m. just to feel as if someone was in the house. Lorazepam helped her sleep but caused dry mouth and grogginess in the early morning. I guided Linda to create a 3-step sleep ritual to ease her into slumber. First, brew chamomile tea at the correct temperature and time. Boil 250 milliliters of water, then wait about 20 seconds for the bubbles to subside, the temperature dropping to 87 degrees Celsius. After that, place 1 spoon, about 2 roll-dried chamomile flowers, into a ceramic cup, cover, and steep for 8 to 10 minutes. Next, turn off the ceiling light and switch on a 2700K warm bedside lamp, along with Adagio in G minor, Baroque version, 60 BPM. Her heart rate naturally lowered in sync with the music. Finally, sip the tea slowly, inhaling the azoline essential oil, faintly blended with fresh lime leaves, 3-4 lightly crushed leaves added to the cup. After 14 persistent nights, Linda reported that her continuous sleep hours had risen from 4 to 7. Her Garmin sleep score soared from 61 to 82. More importantly, she reduced lorazepam to 0.25 milligrams every other day, no longer feeling that brain fog cloud in the morning. So why is the brewing method so important? A temperature of 85 to 90 degrees Celsius is sufficient to break the glycosidic bond between apigenin and sugar, allowing this flavonoid to dissolve fully without driving off fragrant esters. Boiling water at 100 degrees Celsius will cause part of the compound to vaporize, whereas water below 80 degrees Celsius releases only about 35% of apigenin. A steeping time of 8–10 minutes is ideal to maximally extract beneficial compounds from chamomile. If steeped under 6 minutes, the apigenin concentration will be very low, while steeping over 12 minutes may oxidize polyphenols and make the tea bitter, easily causing heartburn in those with sensitive stomachs. It must also be noted that not all chamomile is the same. Roman chamomile, Matricaria chamomilla, is the best variety to use, for it retains a mild monoamine oxidase inhibiting capacity that helps lower anxiety. Industrial tea bags often contain chamomile that has been ground to bits, losing about 25 to 30% of apigenin and the essential oil bisabolol. Apigenin, according to a 2024 University of Michigan study, shows that 1 milligrams of apigenin taken 45 minutes before sleep can increase delta waves by 12% in adults aged 65 and older. 1 cup of properly brewed chamomile tea provides about 1.2 milligrams of apigenin. Chamomile tea also delivers excellent neuro-anti-inflammatory effects. Bisabolol and chamazolene in chamomile help reduce TNF-α and interleukin-6, 2 inflammatory cytokines that disrupt the REM cycle in older adults with chronic inflammatory conditions. Some safe variations and interactions you need to note when using chamomile tea. You may add raw honey to the tea if sweetness is desired. Choose Manuka honey UMF 10+ to enhance antibacterial capacity. However, patients on warfarin should check INR after 2 weeks, because chamomile is rich in natural coumarin that can affect anticoagulants. Patients allergic to ragweed may react mildly when consuming chamomile. You should try half a cup during the day before using it at night to check for any reaction. A common mistake among my patients is brewing supermarket tea bags and steeping the tea for only 2-3 minutes. This is almost insufficient to extract apigenin. Therefore, you should choose a high-quality chamomile tea, brew it at the correct temperature, and steep it long enough to optimize the benefits and results that chamomile tea can bring. Moreover, enjoying chamomile tea properly not only helps improve sleep, but is also a gentle relaxation therapy, helping the body release tension and greatly enhancing your sleep quality. When I close medical charts at the end of each afternoon, what lingers in my mind is not creatinine figures or blood sugar indexes, but the patient's heavy eyes, the look that says what they have not yet voiced. I'm exhausted. We are used to treating sleep as a luxurious gap wedged into a busy schedule, yet in truth, it is the silent night shift during which life is recalibrated millimeter by millimeter. In the dark, my brain, and yours, does not shut off. It opens the gates for the glymphatic janitorial crew to sweep away protein debris, compress new memories into long-term storage, and dispatch maintenance signals to heart, liver, kidneys, and immunity. When we sacrifice sleep, it is no different from closing the garage while the car still needs an oil change and a brake check. After 50, that maintenance routine becomes all the more vital. Many people believe they are past their prime, thus can no longer sleep deeply, but that is a mental rut. Yes, melatonin declines, but the pineal gland still produces it when you give it the cues: morning light, quiet darkness, dropping core temperature, slow breathing. Yes, cortisol runs wild, but it obeys if we move the gym weights to morning, cut off coffee by noon, and pour chamomile at dusk. The issue is not age. The issue is that we have forgotten the language the body uses to signal bedtime. The 7 foods in this video series are not bottled wonder drugs. They are subtle letters written in molecules, delivered to the nervous system in a way prescription pills rarely achieve. A speckled ripe banana with its potassium, magnesium, vitamin B/C triad reminds you are safe, the muscles have loosened, drop the curtain. 2 slices of kiwi, rich in serotonin and vitamin C, whisper emotions have anchored, no vortex will sweep you away. 12 Montmorency cherries add exogenous melatonin, dimming the inner light that still flickers. A few walnuts, packed with omega-3 fat, drip feed the pineal gland. Half a cup of rolled oats mixed with cinnamon erects guardrails to keep glucose levels all night, while avenin stimulates GABA receptors. And finally, the chamomile cup, like a patient grandmother's embrace, hushes the noise in the amygdala. You needn't try to collect every stamp in one evening snack. Listen to your body and choose 2 or 3 items kind to your stomach and palate, and more importantly, repeat them in a fixed rhythm. Food works only when placed in the right slot of the biological score. I often suggest patients mark calendars. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, cherries plus banana. Tuesday, Thursday, kiwi plus oats. Weekends, soaked almonds plus chamomile. Thus, the brain grasps the motif, the pineal absorbs the tempo, and sleep returns as an inborn reflex rather than a gamble. The marvel is, you control more switches than you think. No one can force the clock of time to run backward, but we can reset meal times, press the 90-minute window latch before bed. We cannot dodge every life stress, but we can turn off late-night news, fill the mind's corridor with a 60 BPM adagio. We cannot block every car horn, but closing windows and running white noise masking helps the brain filter outside waves. Most crucial, you command your breath. 4 rounds of 4 to 7-8 breathing through the nose, hold, then a long mouth exhale is the passcode that wakes the vagus nerve, pulling the sympathetic brake better than a hurried sedative. I have sat with people who once wept from exhaustion. They said the night stretched like a parched desert. After 3-4 decades of toil, they feared psychiatric wards or benzodiazepine dependence. On the counseling table, I set before them a steaming chamomile cup, some soaked almonds, and the 4-step circadian map. They doubted. On the second follow-up, exhaustion changed to hope. By the 4th, hope became habit. By quarter's end, they looked at me differently. Doctor, I no longer chase sleep. Sleep comes to find me. I wish to give everyone over 50, whether battling menopause, diabetes, joint pain, chronic anxiety, a biologically grounded promise. The sleep embedded in your genes will not abandon you. It merely folds itself away, awaiting the right conditions. Give it back on lit nights without screens, a cooled core, rounded breaths, a wise evening snack, and it will repay you with a gift no pill can buy. Awakening with a light chest, a clear mind, blood gently bathing the knees, a heart buoyant as a freshly watered tree. If these moments of sharing prove helpful, I invite you to hit subscribe on Healthy Dynamics so we can journey together through other topics of nutrition, movement, and spirit. Send the video link to the sleepless friend in another state, to siblings wide-eyed from shift swaps, or to the spouse tossing beside you. And do visit my channel, where scientific solutions are told in plain language. Tending sleep is tending life. Starting tonight, pledge to yourself, I deserve sleep and I possess every tool to welcome it back. Then each evening, lay one small brick to rebuild the house of night, until one morning you awaken, smiling in surprise. I have restored the greatest wonder of my life, by following nature's wisdom, not by leaning on a prescription. Deep sleep is where tomorrow begins, and that tomorrow, from now on, can restart whenever you choose.